Well, hello. This is my wife's office at the number 3 school annex in Fairview, New Jersey, and I'm going to be doing some pointed talking today about children's literature, specifically the Caldecott announcements that were made by the American Library Association last week, and what I think are the ramifications, the various flaws in the system, but in the end, why these awards just mean so much to so many of us, and why, in the end, these books that win recognition from the ALA are books that get special attention from classrooms, kids in the classroom, from librarians, and they're geared and they're chosen to pass the test of time. And I wanted to discuss today the various implications in the awards. Everyone knows, of course, now, I'm speaking directly to those that come to Wonders in the Dark, that over the last couple of months, there's been, a lot of different reviews appearing on children's books. And of course, I got chided by some of my colleagues, thought I was losing my mind and going senile. I was reading children's books, reviewing children's books at a site where film, theater, opera, classical music, and so on have been really what the site's been all about. And then all of a sudden, children's books start to appear. Well, everyone knows that I've been teaching in a junior high school grammar school for many years, coming upon 30 years. And I've worked with a lot of these books with the younger classes. This year, it's been the first graders. And, I've taught all up to the 8th and in between. I've taught in high school. But this year, I'm in my wife's school teaching the first graders. So I rekindled my intensity for the Caldecott books, although I've been collecting them for decades. Because, as I say, I did teach 4th and 5th grade, and I've been very involved with collecting the books, looking at them, and giving my opinions on a year-to-year basis. We all know that some of the best art that's being produced in this country this year is being exhibited in children's books. Yes, that's a fact. Some of the best art, and it has to do with money, because some of these illustrators see this outlet as a better plan, a game plan for their career, and we have some of the best illustrators. I'm discovering them every day. This week I've discovered, I've known of her work, but I've been very comprehensive. This week I've discovered a Quebec-based illustrator named Isabelle Arsenault. Now, I'm sure many of the people who are involved in children's literature know her well. They're probably saying to themselves now, Sam, you just found her out now? And of course, this book, Jane, the Fox, and Me, is a treasure, as is several others that I found this week. One of them is in my pile of favorite books of 2013. I'm going to go through that pile very, very quickly. But before I do that, I want to really get to the crew of the matter, what this entire video is about. And it's about why was Mr. Tiger Goes Wild left out of the voting? Why did this not receive a Silver Honor Book Medal or the gold medal, which some thought it was going to win? Why did the committee leave this book out? And they chose 3 honor books this year. And as I say, I'll get to that whole matter. But this is basically what the discussion is about this year. It's about what happened to Mr. Tiger and what happened to more honor books. Why were there not more than 3 honor books? Now, many people that go to the Horn book, which is kind of an oasis for children books online, and they've been around for ages. Many of the people that go to that place are, they're ALA members, and they defend the process to the hilt. I mean, they believe that the right decisions are being made, even if they personally don't always agree with some of the choices. In the end, they will put their sentiments aside, and they will support the cause. And the Horn book had their own polling before the awards were announced, and this book and another book I love dearly called Journey, which is in my pile here. They both basically tied for favorite book of the year. I think Journey edged it out by 1 or 2 votes. The point is that they were essentially tied, so that everybody thought that once that happened, that the committee was definitely going to pick both those books. And in the end, they only picked Journey, and they gave their gold medal award. The actual Caldecott medal went to Locomotive, which is another masterpiece of a picture book that I'm not arguing. And indeed, this whole talk today is not to question what 4 books the committee chose. I'm not questioning them. I love Locomotive. I love Journey. I love Flora and the Flamingo. I love Mr. Waffles. Who wouldn't love those books? They're great books. I'm not arguing that they were chosen. I love the books. I reviewed each one of them in my series at the site. And they are among my favorite books of the year. They were wonderful, absolutely spectacular choices. My argument is that 3 honor books in a year as great as this one was simply not enough. It was not enough. Now, there's a committee person, a lovely woman who went to Hornbook. She gave a big, long, report, and she was on the committee. She explained why it's difficult to give out a lot of honor books, and she even went as far as to defend the system, saying that at one point she said, they gave out 4 honor books. If they give out 4 honor books, people are like, they're aghast. They can't believe it. Well, I say, why? Why do we need to be aghast? If we hear that there's 4 or there's 5 honor books, we shouldn't be aghast. We should go, clap. We should really be excited that 4 or 5 are given. That's the way it should be every year. Why? Because there are hundreds of picture books out there that have high quality and are definitely deserving. So, no, there was a woman at the site, I think her name was Elizabeth, she said, no, it's diminishing the prestige of the awards by giving more honor books. I don't agree. Who's going to remember a few years from now how many were given out in 2014 or 13? Who's going to remember how many were given out? How is it going to water down the prestige? We're talking hundreds of books. So my call to the Caldecott Committee is not to criticize them. I love the awards. I'm following. I wouldn't have spent the time I did till late at night writing all these reviews. I love the awards. I'm not criticizing them. And it got a little hot on one of the threads. I was actually referred to at one point as a grandiose blowhard. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm coming off that way now. But it's all in the best interest of getting this committee to, maybe... It's a call for altering their rules. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I'm quickly going to say... I'm going to quickly go over my favorite books of the year. I never did a top 10 list or a top 20 list. I have to cull that down. And I have a pile here of the books that I personally loved. I love their illustrations. I love their concept. And I'm going to go through them quickly. And they're not all American books, obviously. Which means that they're not all Caldecott qualifiers. All right, let's look at these. Nasruddin, the illustrations here were by Rebecca Dautremé. Africa is My Home, a child of the Amistad, and that was illustrated by Robert Byrd, who's a very prominent illustrator who's done some great work. He even won a Newbery. Well, he didn't win the Newbery, but he was the illustrator for a book that won the Newbery. My Father's Arms Are a Boat. And this is a Norwegian book that actually did win citation from one of the other committees from the ALA this year. This beautiful book, Hank Finds an Egg, which is actually photography. It probably doesn't qualify, or it didn't qualify, by Rebecca Dudley. Carnivores by Aaron Reynolds, illustrations by Dan Santat, and the kids just absolutely love this book. All right, this is not really from 2013. All right, that got in there mistakenly. All right, Deep in the Sahara. I found this just recently. And then I realized that the illustrator is Hoda Haddadi, and she's from Iran. and she would not qualify. Look at this work. Look at this art in here. I mean, throughout the book. It's a gorgeous book, ravishing book. But again, it doesn't qualify because the illustrator is Iranian. Then we have Battle Bunny, which is a bit of a controversial book. A book that basically looks like one of the old golden books, and a kid desecrates the books. He turns birthday into battle. And it's kind of, it makes fun of the form. And I think it's a rather neat, creative idea. One of my absolute favorite books of the year is Inside Outside. I mean, this wordless gem done on craft paper is just a feast for the eyes. Oh, again, ravishing. Same goes for Parrots Over Puerto Rico, which did win the Siebert Award. It did win. Right is right. It did win. It won the Siebert Award, but it didn't get one of the Caldecott honors. Another really, really great book by Matthew Olshan and illustrated by Sophie Blackall is The Mighty LaLouche. Again, the art in this book is just top rank. Again, you have to wonder how and why this didn't wind up in the winner's circle, at least among the honor books. Then we have Brian Collier, who has been awarded before for his newest work, Knock Knock, a very moving story of a boy who doesn't see his father anymore and the different remembrances that he has of his father. This is collage work that Collier is famous for. Then we have the book that was voted the favorite book by the first grade classes in this school. That is not a good idea. By all-time favorite Mo Willems of Nuffle Bunny and Pigeon on the Bus fame. And that is really a book that I enjoyed reading. The kids just absolutely adored it. Then we have Tito Puente. Notice this is not my personal copy like most of the books here. This is a library copy, which means I haven't yet had the opportunity to sneak it in the budget and buy it. So it's just the library copy. This did win one of the honor books from the one of the ALO honor books in the Latino grouping, the Beaupre. All right, then we have Advice to Little Girls. This is the pictures by Vladimir Radunsky. He did 2 books this year. And this one doesn't really qualify. I don't remember the reason, but it's an interesting book, but it's just not as strong as other books. I still think it's good enough to be among my favorite books. This is The Rope by Jacqueline Woodson, illustration by James Ransom. Another wonderful book. All right, this, How to Train a Train. This is one of 3 books that came out this year about trains. Locomotives is the best one, easily. But this is still a great book. Illustrations by John Rocco, who did win an honor a couple of years ago for his wonderful work in Blackout. Then we have On a Beam of Light, a story of Albert Einstein by Jennifer Byrne, pictures by Vladimir Radunsky. This is a treasure. This is an absolute treasure. It's a book that, rewards repeated viewings about Einstein. Radunsky's work is very abstract, very compelling, and somebody on the committee said that they thought that the committee members would have a difficult time explaining Radunsky's work. But the truth of the matter is, they don't have to explain it. His work stands on its own, and if it is ravishing, it's beautiful art, it should be picked up, it should be considered. The same goes for this wonderful book, A Splash of Red, which I've been championing right from the start. I love Melissa Sweet's illustrations. They're gorgeous, they really are. But she's already won a Caldecott honor for the William Carlos Williams book a few years ago. Maybe they didn't want to give her a second one, even though they say they don't judge books that way. This is not an American book. This is by Milo So, who's another illustrator from Canada. And this is just another book that really has your eyes moving around. It's really a rich, beautiful, colorful book. And it is one of the best books of this year. But again, not Caldecott friendly. Then we have The Tortoise and the Hare by Jerry Pinkney, one of my all-time favorite artists. And I'll have more to say about him in a little while. But that is really the sequel to The Lion and the Mouse. It's just a gem, a treasure of a picture book. Well, here we go. There's no gold medal on this cover yet, but anybody buying this book in another week or two is going to find a beautiful Caldecott gold medal on the cover. And this is, of course, a masterpiece. From the end papers, the extensive notes on the back. I mean, this is just one of the greats, and nobody can blame the Caldecott Committee for going head over heels on this book. I mean, there's not anything in this book that you wouldn't look at it and just be completely astonished by. And they haven't given Brian Floca anything, so that's another reason. They bypassed him for Moonshot, for Lightship, for a book that my kids really love, the Race Car Alphabet. They've been passing him over now for 8 years. I mean, it was time to honor him. That's not the reason why they honored him. I'm not proposing that, but that helped. That helped. Then we have Pancho, Rabbit, and the Coyote, A Migrant's Tale. This actually, by Duncan Tanato, this actually won 2 of the Beaupré Awards. It won an honor for the writing and an honor for the illustration. I guess that's one of this year's double winners. Locomotive was the other double winner. Beautifully done. And then we have The Hole, which is a book that my kids love because there's a hole that runs through it. And this is a Norwegian book. And everything that happens in this book centers around that hole. Everything. Lights, plumbing, a boy's nose, a manhole, the hole which is the bottom of the light. It's just a challenging book. My kids loved it. And again, these were first graders. This was not an easy book to navigate. Absolutely one of the best books of the year. Fog Island by Tommy Ungara, another book that was lost by the wayside. It fell off the radar. It's, again, nobody is able to say that Tommy Ungara is not original, and his illustrations always stand out. Now, earlier you heard me mention Isabelle Arsenault, and I'm just falling in love with all her work. Once Upon a Northern Light. Now, this is just, anybody who loves the color blue and winter and snow and, a meditative feeling and so on can sit back and relax and warm up to this beautiful book. She's got to be one of the finest illustrators out there, I would imagine. Maybe somebody who knows more about this than me could tell me that she's not. One of my favorite books of the year. Again, not Caldecott friendly. She's Canadian. Then we have Maria Had a Little Llama. This is the Beaupré honor book. Wonderful book. Dusk by Uri Shulowitz. This would probably make my top 10 if I finally get around to, getting it down. I love this illustrator deeply. Love his work. And he did deserve so much attention that he got... the Treasure he's won a silver medal for, Snow, The Fool of the World, and The Flying Ship, How I Learned Geography. These are all top-ranked books. All right, let's get back to it. This is another book, a Scandinavian book, You Are Stardust. This is another book that blows your mind. I mean, it's a different style. The cutouts and the overlays, it's just really a feast for the eyes. The Tree Lady, this was about the lady who went in San Diego and made all her parks, and she beautified the park. This is like Barbara Cooney in Overdrive. Anybody who looks at this book, Barbara Cooney passed away, didn't she? What's going on here? This looks like Barbara Cooney. Miss Rumpweis, Island Boy. This is very, very similar, but in a very good sense. All right, and then we have Stardines, not sardines, Stardines. All of the words in this book are kind of by one of our great poet laureate, Jack Prelutsky, and the illustrations by Karen Berger are just stunning in this book. It's a mystery to me why this book has not gotten far more attention, not only for awards, but just generally speaking. So many people do love the book. But for whatever reason, it hasn't taken off with some. And I bemoan that. I lament that. And I did a piece on this at the site, like I did a many other. Now, where was the Matchbox Diary? Come on, committee, where was it? Where was it? Why didn't this get an honor? You know, just feeling the paper, looking at that parched paper is enough to intoxicate you with this book. Never mind looking at the words and the pictures. Just the paper alone should pull you in. This is about a kid whose family, they're Italian, and about immigrants who come to Ellis Island. And it's about an old man who tells the little girl that he has matchboxes and he has collected, you know, macaronis and medals, and then each matchbox tells a story. The kids love this book. I've had success with it. I don't know what, looking at this book, you wonder, this has award written all over it. It's a gorgeous book, cover to cover. You know, when you talk awards, this is a book that should be right there. All right. Journey. One of the masterpieces of the year. It makes a strong play for my #1 position. It makes a strong play. And it won the honor. But guess what? Most people thought it was going to win the medal. Most people thought it was going to go for the gold. But it won the silver, which is enough for recognition. You have a career here. Aaron Becker's career has taken off. And we can only think of the great things he's going to bring us after this. Of course, yeah, this was indebted to Harold and the Purple Crayon, but it's a wholly original work. You look at this fantastical illustration here, and it's just pretty much blows your mind. But there's other double-page spreads through this book, like this one, when she's on the carpet. This is one of the great fantasies of all time for picture books. Then we have Flora and the Flamingo, which we know also won a silver medal. This was one of the winners. And it's perfection. You know, I mean, the flaps come, the girl emulating the flamingo, the pudgy little girl, the flamingo, and it's sort of a dance, a ballet, and, you know, it has that great pull-out spread. The pink and the white just really, again, they intoxicate you. I did a review at the site for that. Another one everybody loves, I loved it too, The Boy Who Loved Math. Then we have Nino Wrestles the World. This is one of the books that many people want to know why that this did not get a silver medal at least. And they gave it the Latino Award. They always give Latino Award. Come on, bring those Latino Awards into the mainstream. Give it a Caldecott honor. Very vibrant, vivid colors about a kid who likes lollipops, but he wrestles mummies and all different kinds of mythological creatures from Mexican folklore. And they're stamped on the end papers. Yuyi Morales, she keeps winning the Beaupre Award. She's not winning any Caldecott honors. This was a good chance for her this year. Building Our House won a Boston Hornbook Award, but it didn't translate to any attention from the Caldecott. Moon Day, Adam Rex. This is another great book that won a lot of attention. A moon that comes in the backyard of a family. Again, he's another one that has that fantastical touch. This is an Indian book from India called Gobble You Up. And it's, you know, it brings to mind there was an old lady who swallowed a fly. Again, craft paper. It's just a turn on just to touch the paper, let alone read the book. It's beautiful. It's exquisite. Sublime. If you want to see a whale, another book that by the Steads, Erin E. Stead. Actually, this is a very beautiful book. And they just gave the Steads the gold medal a few years ago for the Amos McGee. One of my kids' favorite books is Unicorn Thinks He's Pretty Great. This turned them on from the get-go. This really is a kid-friendly book, but it's great. It teaches them the lesson of friendship. And first it starts in jealousy, and then the unicorn and the goat become friends. It's a very colorful, abstract concept from an author who's very, very good at that. But a lot of people thought this would be his chance to get into the Caldecott circle. It didn't happen. Another book that Hornbook alerted me to is Odd Duck. Beautiful, just beautiful illustrations throughout here, you know. This you can look at multiple times. Who says women can't be doctors? I didn't think they were going to give Marjorie Priceman a third silver medal. This is about the first woman doctor who was known, her name was Elizabeth Blackwell. And it's, again, that very fancy, you could tell her work as soon as you open this book. In fact, I'll tell you a story. When I first picked this book up, I went to the Rutherford Library. And I just was going for titles, and I didn't look at who illustrated the book. And I opened it. I just saw Tanya Lee Stone. And I said, you know, whoever this illustrator is, she really must be indebted. She loves Marjorie Priceman's work. Then I turned the book back and I looked. Sure enough, it was Marjorie Priceman that did the book. But I didn't know that. My first Kafka. Now, this will not work with first graders. We need to teach them Kafka, Metamorphosis. But it's a book that, again, if I'm going to really size up what I think are the best children's books of the years, I thought this was challenging. I thought this was a unique idea. Black and white illustrations, one of my favorite literary figures. It all adds up to a book that is good for the, at least for the gifted and talented. Then we have Water in the Park, which is about a Brooklyn park. Beautiful spreads here, you know, outdoor spreads of the park, and then it starts to rain, of the dogs. My favorite was one of, I just want to show you, and it was the three dogs in the water. Yeah, where is that now? The rain was a great one too. I missed it. Okay. Did I miss it? What am I missing here? All right, wait a minute, I'll find it. Yeah, here we go. Okay, then we have Mr. Waffles. This was one of the 3 silver medal winners. Do I argue that? No. This is the great David Wiesner. This is one of the greatest illustrators in the history of children's literature. And he's a man that has a lot of work ahead of him. He's still only in his 50s. He's done Tuesday, gold medal. Flotsam, gold medal. The Three Pigs, gold medal. Which ties him with Marcia Brown, an old, well, she's still alive. She's 96, but she was the queen of children's literature back in the 50s and 60s. Then we have Once a Mouse, A Cinderella, and Shadow. So she won 3 gold. Wiesner has tied her for the 3 gold, and now he has, with Mr. Waffle, he has his 3rd silver medal. So he has 6. The Day the Crayons Quit. This is the crayons complaining about being overused. The kids love this book, and they picked it as one of their favorites. The Dark, by Lemony Snicket, illustrated by John Clausen, a masterpiece. Why didn't it win? Why didn't this get a silver medal? Well, there wasn't enough votes in the committee, but there was among book critics all over the country. I would say maybe John Clausen. He won 2 medals last year for, he won the gold for This Is Not a Hat, and then he won for a silver for the book about yarn, which I have somewhere here. Yeah. This Is Not My Hat was his gold. Extra yarn. Guess what? I liked extra yarn better. This is another thing that people who follow the awards, they like to point out. They sometimes prefer the silver medals to the gold. In every way, I feel that Extra Yarn is a more beautiful, more ravishing book than This Is Not My Hat. But the committee felt that This Is Not My Hat spoke probably to kids. And they thought the simplicity was the charm, less is more kind of thing. But me, I like my great art, and I thought that the Extra Yarn was a stronger book. Then we have finally Bluebird by Bob Stake, another book I love very, very much. It's really a takeoff of the Red Balloon, about a kid who's followed by a bird, and the kids kill the bird, and the bird carries him up into the sky in the same way that the balloons of Paris pulled the boy up, Lamorisi's son, up into the air. but it's his original take on it. It's what he did with it. All right, so those are my favorite books. Now, the discussion is going to go this way. All right, what are some of the issues that the committee has? Well, one of them is that they don't give enough awards to African American illustrators and books, and they don't give enough to Latino. Now, is that totally true? No. Let's give the committee their due. Let's not be unfair. The committee has recognized some great stuff by blacks and Latinos. Mufaro's Beautiful Daughter, Caldecott Honor. This is about as beautiful a book as you'll ever find in all of children's literature. It did win the silver. Actually, I thought it should have won the gold that year, but I don't want to get into that. I think I felt that way. Anyways, then we have K.D. Nelson, who was honored for Henry's Freedom Box. He did win a silver medal. Then we have Tar Beach by Faith Rheingold. This is a family that goes up on... They have a barbecue on their apartment house overlooking the George Washington Bridge. And I could connect with that, you know, because we're from the area. I thought it was beautiful. It still is beautiful now, like it was when we first saw it. We have Duke Ellington. This is Brian Pinckney, who's Jerry Pinckney's son, and he's a great illustrator in his own right. Duke Ellington, that's a beautiful book. One of my own favorites is The Faithful Friend, which was set in the Caribbean. This is just a book that rewards with its beauty every time you look at it again. Great story, too, to read to the kids. Then we have Dave the Potter by Brian Collier, another treasure of a book. It's just from page to page, it's a stunner. Now, these are all African-American books that the committee has on it. So anybody who thinks that they don't honor the African, they're wrong. They do honor them. They're getting Caldecott recognition. I guess the argument is that they're not winning the gold often enough. They're giving them silvers when they give it. I think that's what the argument is. Rosa by Nicky Giovanni. Again, Brian Collier. Figure it out. Collier and Nelson are the two heavy hitters there. And then we have E.B. Lewis, who is the illustrator for Jacqueline Woodson's Coming On Home Soon. It's a good book, but actually Lewis probably should have won for the Kindness, one of the other two that he did with Woodson. Then we have this book, which I think should be wearing the gold medal. This is the greatest book we have yet on Martin Luther King. It's a stunning book of collage, and it did win the silver, granted, but I felt that year that this probably was the one for the gold. I don't remember my historical scholarship of the awards doesn't tell me immediately what had won that year. I'd have to refresh my memory. Then we had a favorite of the Beaupre Committee, David Diaz, who won for Smoky Night. This was a story about people who robbed apartment houses in Los Angeles. There was riots. After this book won, all right, great for the Latino community. Parents were complaining this was the most controversial choice in the history of the awards. Some people said, how dare them give a book about people robbing grocery stores and hitting people with bats, coming out with television sets. How dare them do that? So what did the committee do? They got scared. Next year they gave their award to a cops book. Officer Buckle and Gloria won the gold the very same year after this. So we gave the crooks the award, now we gave the cops the award. I love both books, actually. I don't really fault the choices. All right. When did the committee pick books that we'll go back to the 1970s, where an interracial couple won 2 gold medals in a row. This is the only time in history where there was 2 winners in a row. I believe it was 76 and 77, or was it 77, 78? Anyway, Why Mosquito Buzz in People's Ears and Ashanti the Zulu African Tradition. Stunning books, both of them. However, I didn't agree with the first one. My choice this year would have been Strega Nona by Tommy DiPaola, which I thought was one of the greatest books ever to win any kind of an award. And it did win the silver that year. This was the gold. The funny part is that these two people, Leo and Diane Dillon, it was Leo was the author. Diane did the illustrations. I think that's the way it worked. Their two greatest books were not their medal winners. They were To Everything There Is a Season, which was made into a song. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. We know that very, very well. A great song. And this is just as beautiful a book as you'll find. Every turn of the page is a different style of art. All of it. This was arguably their masterpiece. They got nothing. They got nothing. Why? Well, they won 2 gold medals in the 70s. They probably weren't going to go and give them a third one, or even an honor. The same thing with Rap-a-Tap-Tap. Here's Bojangles. The kids love this book because it has that beat. You know, Rap-a-Tap-Tap, think of that. You know, he briefly paused to pat an old cat, Rap-a-Tap-Tap, think of that. And then the kids start getting involved in it. Wonderful, wonderful book as well. It has become one of the more famous read-aloud books. All right, back to Jerry Pinkney. It took a long time for them to give him that gold medal for The Lion and the Mouse. It took a long time. They made him wait. But hey, that wait was worth it because he won 5 silver medals waiting. Maybe it was better for him that they do what they did. Keep on just giving him the silver. It started off, the Pinkney dynasty started off with Morandi and Brother Wynn. I don't think I need to show his art. Everybody knows his art. It's one of a kind. Then we had The Talking Eggs, which I think now is a more popular book than the book that won the gold that year, Limpopo by Ed Young. Then we had John Henry was his third. Then we have The Ugly Duckling. This could be the most ravishing of all his books. Yet again, it only holds that silver, which is enough on the cover. And then Noah's Ark was the 5th silver medal winner. And a lot of people said they're never going to give this man the gold medal. Never. Why? Well, the more mischievous people among us says because he's African American. No African American has ever won a gold medal. Only that interracial couple won. But the illustrations were done by the white lady. So, truthfully, no, is that the way it worked? Well, no African American had ever won, and they played this down until after 5 silver medals, 4 years ago, it finally wins. The first time we had an African American win the gold medal. And if it was going to be anyone, it should be him, because he's one of the greatest illustrators, period. Period. So that was finally the right choice. We don't know what the reasons why we have what we have. Some people believe the committee has an all-white way of thinking, but that they can't help it because, hey, they're appointed. But we need to expand. The committee needs to expand. I'm not saying anything revelatory here. I'm only repeating, I'm parroting what other people are saying, and these observations I made. All right. When did the committee make a mistake? It's a matter of opinion. They gave this gold medal to A Ball from Daisy. A Ball for Daisy by Chris Rochka. My kids have no use for this book. They think it's boring, dull. The whole world seems to love it, though, so I'm not going to complain. I'm just in the minority. I never really connected with Rochka's work, although I did love Yo Yes, his first book, Yo Yes, which won him the Caldecott honor, the silver medal. I love that book, but I never connected with the Hello, Goodbye window or this, and certainly this should not have won the gold over Grandpa Green, which is simply one of the greatest books ever created. This is an absolute masterpiece. What business did this have coming with the silver and then that winning the gold? It still shocks and amazes me, but it happens. Then we have this. We have, we have this spread here. I mean, and that speaks for itself. Anyways, I don't want to hear about imperfections or flaws and all that. Not when I'm looking, I'm looking at God here. I don't want to hear about that. Then we have curious cases. The Funny Little Woman won a gold for Blair Lent. So illustrations, but his greatest book was one that was ignored a few years before that, Tiki Tiki Tembo. It's a kid's favorite. Artistically, it's arguably a greater book than The Funny Little Woman is, although I'll take the medal for The Funny Little Woman. I love Lent's work. And another curious thing that happened once was they gave Time Flies a silver medal. This is by Eric Roman. He didn't win the gold, so what did they do a few years later? They give him the gold for what I thought was I thought it was okay. I just didn't think it was really that outstanding of a book, but the committee thought it connected with kids and it was artful and it had no flaws and so on. Some books, like this, amazed me. Hey Al was the winner. And then Rumpelstiltskin was the second place. How did you figure that? It happens. Again, it's a matter of opinion. Here, there's just, some people found this beautiful. It doesn't work for me. I don't know. It's just awkward. It's just that the balance is off. The color is just muted. It doesn't connect with me. Whereas Rumpelstiltskin, this is Renaissance art. These are great paintings. This could be hanging in museums, let alone in a children's book. I mean, but then again, they did get back to Zelinsky a few years later for Rapunzel, which deserved it. Rapunzel is probably his greatest book. I agree with the committee that if they were going to give him the gold medal for all his work, this was the one that really hit it out of the park. So I'm with the committee on that. One of the funniest things happened was with the committee, and I mentioned that all the time, was they gave this book, Secret of the Andes, the Newbery Medal. Remember, this is the same American Library Association. They gave this the Newbery Medal in 1952. The silver medal that year went to Charlotte's Web, which is probably the most beloved children's book of all time. Nobody knows this even exists anymore. You can't even find this book in the library. Some libraries don't even carry it anymore. This is the Newbery winner? Why did they give it the Newbery winner when Charlotte's Web had the most beautiful prose that you'll ever find in a children's book? What was the reason? They didn't think? Or somebody suggested they needed to honor Anne Nolan Clark, who was one of their own. She was a longtime librarian. This is the talk. You don't know. Anyway, they don't always hit it right, like any award system, but sometimes they are right on the money. Their heart is in the right place. They work very hard. They spend all year round, the committee. It's a 15-person committee. And they check the books, they get back to each other, they go and research, they go to museums, they go everywhere. They really take this job seriously, and you got to take your hat off to them. You really do. Here, yeah, I love this book. This didn't get recognition a few years ago. It's called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. It was written by one of their favorites, Catherine Pattison, who won 2 Newbery medals, but Pamela Dalton, I guess, is not as famous within the circles. It's a beautiful book, by the way. I just wanted to mention that. Flora and Ulysses is the winner of the gold medal. I'm actually almost done with it. I think it's a great book. I think it was a great choice. But I can't really say that I haven't read all the other books that were nominated. All right, question. One of my favorite Caldecott winners ever. My personal favorites. I love this book dearly. I wish it was the gold winner. I really, really love it for so many reasons. It's called The Gardener, and the illustrations are by David Small, who is one of their favorites. He's won a few times. He won the gold for the President book, If You Want to Be President. Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins. This is another gem that's only getting better and better, and certainly it's the definitive book on Hanukkah. Who wouldn't put this on their list? Who wouldn't? I mean, and I certainly won't leave it off. I love Van Olsberg's work totally. And this holds up. It's one of the greats, and we know what it spawned. This one is less known, The Village of Round and Square Houses by Anne Griffalconi. But this one is really a dazzling book. I mean, it won the silver medal that year, and it's about her time spent in Africa in little villages. It really brings all of that alive. Who would not dare to put Marie Sendak in? And I could put any Sendak book I want because they're all great. But I decided to put this one, which is his most famous one. And obviously a book that changed the whole course of children's literature. You know, from then on, you know, the rules were completely different. And Sendak, by the way, has won more Caldecott citation. We'll say he's won, I think, 7 or 8 total. He only won one gold, but he's won 6 or 7 silver, which puts him in the lead. He's number 1. He's the number 1 guy. Pinkney's up there. Shulevitz is up there. Marsha Brown and David Wiesner are all up there, but I believe Sendak is the top. One of my favorites, because I love the story of Sam Bangs and Moonshine, and I'm partial to Eveline Ness's illustrations. I love the way the sketches, the pencil sketches, and then to the foreground you build you build in the solid color lines, and of course it's just 3 colors. This has always been one of my favorites. This is absolutely one of my favorite books. It's a recent one called Interrupting Chicken. And my kids love this. I love reading it to them. I think they like when I say, chicken! It's a great book. I mean, the illustrations are great. The story it pulls them in. You have children's illustrations incorporated into it. And I discovered this book only at the time when it won the medal. All right, this one. The Invention of Hugo Cabret, which was made into the movie Hugo. Now, nobody thought this was going to win that year. I'm one of the people who applauded. Absolutely, that was the right choice. Absolutely, 100%, one of my all-time favorites. They did a great job picking The Sick Day for Amos McGee. I thought that was definitely the best book. Other people were saying that Chalk was going to win that year. And my kids love Chalk. There's the one where the kids go into the park and they start drawing, and then the things come to life. The one kid draws a dinosaur. I look at the expressions on their faces. This was another case where a lot of people want to know, where was this book when the announcements were made? I didn't really, you know, I liked the book, but I wasn't really willing to go to the mat for it. I really wasn't willing. I would have gone to the mat if this didn't win, but it did win. I thought they made the right choice. And then we have Owl Moon. This blue winter book always blows me away. With the owl, it really puts you right in the winter mood. It's just such a beautiful book. It is one of the most popular of the Caldecott winners. Then we have Fables. I adore this one. We know what this is, 20 stories with a little message at the end. My favorite being The Bear and the Crow, which is on the cover, and The Bad Kangaroo. And The Spider and the Fly is another one that always gets the kids pulled right in. A black and white book about the spider who captures the fly, uses flattery. And this is your best Halloween book among all the Caldecott books. Wonderful choice. So, basically, as I wind down here, I just want to say I wish that we had Mr. Tiger Goes Wild. You know, I wish it had finished, but they did. You know, they spoke. They felt they didn't have enough support for it, whatever reason. I don't necessarily buy the fatal flaw argument, but a woman at the Horn Book, just before I started this, she came on and she said, Sam, and she gave me a funny example about eating dinner, and she said, you know, the committee, if they find a fatal flaw in the book, and they're looking, and you know, in the beginning, the reason why we got heated here, I was furious that somebody would invalidate a book because there was a speck somewhere or gutter was turned or something. And to me, that wasn't a fair way. If a book is a beautiful work of art, we're not going to disqualify it for a little. But I was told, no, that's not the way it works. They find a flaw. They don't feel the way you do. But they're free to ignore that flaw. And that's probably why we had Parrots over Puerto Rico by the other committee getting in, when people were saying that they had the talons on the parrot's legs wrong. Well, I don't know. All I know is that we all love this book. We really felt that it should have won an honor, but it didn't. You can't have everything. We all love Nino Wrestles the World and the Matchbox Diary and other books that we thought... Stardeens is another one that I love. The Dark, A Splash of Red, On a Beam of Light, The Mighty LaLouche. I love all of them. Question is, why didn't at least one or two of them get in? I think we should have more than 3 honor books. The committee argues that it's hard to give it to more than 3. Well, I call for a reform in the system. I'm not sure what that reform should be. But I hope that future committees like the one 2 years ago that did give 5, future committees will look at the year and try and come to a consensus. What we want is, what is the advantage of more honor books? The advantage is that more people are exposed to books that have won the validation of the ALA. More books are sold, so it's a money proposition. And as I say, people don't remember what wins, years back or how many won. So the silver medal brings a lot of attention onto children's books in general. I've never bought this idea that it lessens the prestige. I mean, was the prestige lessened 2 years ago when there were 5 winners? Should we assume that that committee didn't do their job? They gave 5 honor books? No, it didn't lessen the prestige. It doesn't lessen. Nobody thinks that the difference between 3 and 5, rather than have 3 honor books, we have 5. You mean because we added 2 more, that's going to throw the whole process down the tubes? There are hundreds of books. To add 2 more honor books, I would have been thrilled if they would have added Nino and, of course, Mr. Tiger Goes Wild to that group. Or the Matchbox Diary instead of Nino, or Stardines, or Mighty LaLouche, or On a Beam of Light, and so on and so forth. So I really believe that more honor books is the way to go here. And I know the process is not kind to this all the time. Judy explained all of that. I understand that. But my call here is for a modest reform, whatever that might be. And there are other reformers on these threads that have been basically calling for the same, very politely, while validating the process on one hand. Some of them, appointed committees, they still manage to sneak in their little reservations. And that's basically what this is all about. I hope we can get more honor books. I really don't feel that there's a strong argument against it. I'm not convinced. More is more in this instance. So another question that might come up is, what are the Caldecott winners from the past, from the early days, that really left an impression? And to this day, I always identify Virginia Lee Burton's The Little House as one of the great books, period. Not just one of the great Caldecott Gold Medal winners, one of the greatest children's books ever written. And I continue to use that with my classes. It made a deep impression on me in the long ago days, and then it was studied in college literature classes. Anything that Burton did, Mike Mulligan and Steam Shovel, and all the work of Robert McCluskey. I mean, who doesn't? What children's librarian, what children's teacher, lower grade teacher doesn't love Make Way for Ducklings and Time of Wonder and Journey Cake Ho and Lentil? Just the other day, one kid kept reminding me of Lentil. I had read it to him, and he kept saying how wonderful a book it is. He wanted me to read it to him again. Blueberries for Sal, which actually won the silver medal that year, was the year that it was released in the early 40s. That's one of the great books in children's literature as well. So, some of the earlier people, continue to exert enormous influence on today's illustrators, but, Barbara Cooney, I mentioned her in the other discussion, Chanticleer and the Fox, The Oxcart Man, Miss Rumpweis, some of the greatest classics, and I don't think anyone would think otherwise. And, there were illustrators in the in the middle years, that like Nani Hagragian, who won a couple of Caldecott medals. One of them was for One Fine Day, about the story of the fox who drank the maiden's milk, and then she cut his tail off, and he had to keep going to try and find his tail. He went to this one, that one, the other one. You know, they kept basically using him, taking his stuff away from him, and telling him to go to somebody else. That was the same story was at play in another one of my earlier favorites, which won the Caldecott Medal, Finders Keepers by Will and Nichols. It's basically the same story retold in a different way. Some of the greatest books were done at that time because illustrators were pure. You know, they didn't have some of the advantages that illustrators have. That's not to say that there aren't great illustrators now. I've mentioned already that, you know, David Wiesner is one of the greatest, as is Jerry Pinkney, as is Yuri Shulowitz, and many, many others. We have Aaron Becker now, who's going to be one of the greats, I'm sure. Even today's illustrators have a lot of work ahead of them, and the advantage they have is that their work is just so extraordinarily beautiful that illustrators, even back in the day, couldn't quite replicate that level of beauty in an extravagant sense. Purity, yes, and I mean, you know, you look at Make Way for Ducklings, and you can't get a more perfect book. I mean, that's about as perfect a children's book that's ever been written and illustrated, and won the Caldecott Medal. If somebody was, you know, forced to name their favorite children's book of all the Caldecott winners, I would say a good deal of them would mention that book, and rightfully so. So thank you for listening. For those of you who are still with me right now, I think you're psychologically disturbed for staying and listening to me this long. I didn't think I'd go on. If you stayed this long, I feel really sorry for you. You need help. Okay.